Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So in lieu of Pride Month, I have decided to make this video because a lot of people could probably relate to this, but I wanted to come out officially. I did on Twitter already, but I wanted to come out officially on my YouTube channel and let you guys know that I am bisexual. And it took a lot to kind of understand this is me, this is a part of who I am. I just didn't know for a long time, despite it being painfully obvious. And I went to Twitter a few days ago, and even though I came out a few months ago on Twitter and I just said I am bisexual, I wanted to talk about it, acknowledging it. And I know a lot of people struggle with their sexuality or they're confused about it, and some of you might be younger, and maybe you want to know how I came to the conclusion, how I realized that I was bisexual, and where to go from here. I know you guys have lots of questions, and maybe this will help you. So I wanted to make the video. So I said I want to do a video about my sexuality for Pride Month and how I was able to fully acknowledge my sexuality and come out. And then I asked you guys to ask me questions regarding my coming out, and you guys did, and I'm very happy that you did. So I get to do this video and share it with the world that I'm bisexual, I like women, and I like men. So first question, how and where did you get the courage to come out? So it was literally just spontaneous. It wasn't necessarily something courageous for me. I'm not really a person that struggles too much with building up the courage to say things in general. I'm very outspoken, which is why, again, like, I want to do this video, because there are tons of people that aren't outspoken and don't and have to find courage to speak up about topics, whereas for me it comes very naturally to just say what's on my mind. So where was I? I was playing video games with my friends and we were talking about girls. This is a really good one. Did I ever have a female crush? Absolutely. In fact, this is funny to me because I had no idea, but I only really had female crushes. When I looked at celebrity crushes, like, yeah, I had a few like celebrity crushes here and there that were male. But for the most part, they were female, like Ronda Rousey, Adelaide Kane, Keira Knightley, Iggy Azalea. Like, these are all women that I had the absolute hots for, like, was head over heels, like, oh my god, they're perfect. If I was at the gym or something and I saw a really pretty girl, like, I'd get nervous around them, like, whereas, like, guys, I would get nervous, but it was a different kind of nervous. I was just nervous around guys because men are scary to me, like, scary in a different way, not in a cute way. But yeah, I've mostly had female crushes, way more female crushes than I've had male crushes. This is a really good question, and I think this is one that could be really helpful for people as well. Was it easier to come out on the internet or to close family and friends? Neither was harder for me. I just tweeted out, I am bisexual, and then I texted my friends and I was like, I'm bisexual. And they were like,
yeah, everyone knows that.
And I actually came to the conclusion talking to friends as well, because they were kind of like, yeah, you're kind of like bisexual. Like, everyone knows this. And I was like, maybe I'm bisexual. I did tell my mom. I don't think I've officially told my dad, but again, I think it's one of those things that's painfully obvious. But yeah, no, it was easy for both. And I actually didn't really read the comments on my tweet. I know that there were some people that were like, oh my god, this is against my religion. And it's like, I don't really care. I don't know what that has to do with me. I mean, I respect your religion and all, but I don't really know what that has to do with me or my sexuality has to do with you. I'm just putting it out there that this is who I am. Did my boyfriend support me? Yes, of course. Like, again, like, it's just a matter of fact of I am. Like, it's not like, oh my god, I'm leaving you for a woman today. It was just, oh yeah, I think I like women and men. Like, it had nothing to really do with our relationship at the end of the day. You know what I mean? So yes, of course. He does not care. here's a really good question. How long was I questioning, and was I comfortable with coming out at first? So the how long were you questioning is a really good question. I wasn't really questioning it ever. I just went with the flow. It wasn't like a very turbulent thing. In high school, I think there was definitely not so much like a question of it, but definitely suppression of it. Like I was, no, like if there anyone said like, oh, she's gay or she's bi, I would be like, oh my God, no. Like definitely some suppressed, not homophobia, I would say, but just suppression in general. Like maybe it came out in homophobia in some ways. I don't really remember, but I definitely suppressed it, and I definitely was like weirded out by the thought of it. So maybe like a little bit of suppressed homophobia, if that's a thing. But I was very like confused on acknowledging it rather. So yeah, I was questioning for a long time, but it was just the very, very back of my mind. I wasn't really like, I'm gay, but I was more of like, I'm not gay. No, that's not me. I just think women are hot and the best thing ever. And like women, love them. Well, okay. So I already asked what my family's reaction was, but what was my boyfriend's reaction? I was like, oh yeah, I came out as bisexual last night. And he was like,
You did?
I was like, yeah. And he was like,
Are you?
and I was like, yeah. And he was like,
Okay.
like it's very undramatic, but that's how it was. On a scale from 1 to 10, how nervous was I to come out? I was 0% nervous to come out. I just said it and I didn't care. That was just how it was. This is a really good question. Was it difficult to find a label you felt comfortable with, and did you question it a lot? This is actually something that I'm going to continue to question myself for a little bit longer on whether or not I'm bisexual or pansexual. I'm not really all too sure. I'm just going to go with bisexual for now. But I can't really experiment too much, obviously. How's my first Pride Month out of the closet going so far? Oh my God, I love it. I mean, I just feel like a part of something that is really awesome to be part of, and it is who I am. Like if you're straight too, like this, great, like good for you, but it's cool. It's like, I feel like welcome. I feel very happy. I'm just myself, and even though I'm not like dating women, right now, for obvious reasons. Was there a specific person that made you realize you weren't straight, or did it just slowly come to you? A little bit of both. It just slowly came to me over time. However, there was a specific person. Meet Adelaide Kane. She is the reason I really discovered that I was bisexual. I mean, look at this goddess. She's gorgeous. She's everything I wish that I could have, but also not. This is her girlfriend. But yeah, she is an actress, and for a while, she was actually the background on my computer. Remember when you were doing that mukbang with Albert and you said you weren't fine and listed all the women you thought were hot? Yeah, look, I didn't know. I wasn't out of the closet, okay? I remember that people were talking about this, though, because him and I were both like, yeah, we're not bi, but it's like, yeah, you're both not bi? This is a question that I'm going to answer. Has keeping your sexuality from others put a toll on your mental well-being? Not really, because I didn't really know. It was the back of my mind. I was in a serious long-term relationships for basically my whole adulthood. I didn't really think about it too much. With that being said, I can completely understand how it would put a toll on other people, keeping it like suppressed, especially if you're actively confused about it. Like I wasn't actively confused about it. I was just suppressed. I didn't really think about it. Oh my gosh, guys. So if you notice that the background has changed slightly and I'm in different clothes and everything, it's because while we were editing the video, the audio decided to mess up. So we had to re-record some of this, but it's okay because we're answering the same questions as we originally did, but let's get right into it. So how old were you when you started questioning your sexuality? I honestly think that I started questioning it around the time that I was 15. I didn't really question it too much before that, but I also didn't really date a lot of people before my adulthood. Like, I was never in really a long-term relationship. Like, as you guys know, I dated Albert kind of on and off throughout teenage years and never more than just a few months at a time. So in general, I definitely didn't start questioning it because I just wasn't really dating in general. But I definitely was kissing a lot of girls when I was a teenager, and I was like, oh, this is normal. This is just like a friendly thing. But like, there's pictures of me kissing passionately. Was there a time you didn't want to accept the fact you were bi? Yes, absolutely. And this is I wanted to touch on this. In high school, I had friends that were very open with their sexuality. They didn't really care. And definitely, so a lot of my friends in high school were open with their sexuality. And with those people, even though I thought I was straight, I would hold their hand and kiss them on the cheek. And platonically, honestly, neither one of us or none of us were really interested in each other. We were just very friendly with each other and very open with our love and open with sharing that love platonically. But we would hold hands in the hallways, and honestly, I still hold my girlfriend's hands. But there was a rumor that spread around that was kind of derogatory. It was supposed to be kind of derogatory, at least, that I was a lesbian, and I was not ready to come out, nor did I really acknowledge it or given it much thought. And because it felt like it was supposed to be harmful towards me, it really did affect me. And so this is a very important time in my life. This was when I was 15, where I did not want to accept the fact that I was bisexual. I was not ready to accept it. I hadn't given it much thought. And because people basically kind of outed me before I was ready. So yeah, that was a very, very almost tragic part of my teenage years, because I was 15, and again, like, I didn't really date in my teenage years, and this was meant to hurt my feelings, and it really did. And I remember crying over it, even though that's a stupid thing to cry over, and you shouldn't care what other people think when it comes to who you love. I mean, unless, like with restriction, but like, when it comes down to it, if you're bisexual, you should be proud that you're bisexual, but it's easier said than done, especially when you're a teenager and people are coming at you in a hateful way like they did with me. Do you think it's okay to have a gender preference if you're bisexual? I do. I don't really think there is much question and doubt in my mind. It is absolutely okay to have gender preference when you're bisexual. I think when you start to not have a gender preference, maybe it starts to lean into more pansexual, which I definitely have a gender preference, but only because, number one, finding out that I was bisexual in a relationship, I can't really explore the fact that I like women too much because, when I'm with a man. So do I think it's okay to have a gender preference if you're bi? I do. I have a male preference. That might change in the future, though. I don't know. That's something that I can't personally explore, but I 100% think that is normal if you're bisexual to have a gender preference. Who was the first person that you came out to? The first person that I came out to, I was on a Discord call, actually, and I was talking about my celebrity crush, which is one of them, which is Adelaide Kane, and I was talking about how she's like the most beautiful girl I've ever seen, and I said her as my computer background, and I was just like, yeah, I don't know, maybe I'm bisexual. And my friends were like, yeah, I mean, you definitely seem like you're bisexual. And I was like, wait a minute. And I was like thinking about it. I was like giving it deep thought, because I haven't really had a chance to give it too much deep thought before. And I was like, yeah, like if the opportunity arose, like if I was single and available, I would date a woman. I realized that I overcomplicated it a lot in the past because of being outed when I wasn't ready. So I was really kind of ashamed of those thoughts. But when I really gave it the actual thought and the process, I was like, yeah, you know what? I would date a woman if the opportunity arose. What would you say to closeted bisexuals? Take your time and don't let anyone else rush you or convince you you are or are not. Process it on your own and just try to tune out everything else. Don't let anything sway your opinion, because that's what happened to me, and I'm 22 and I just now figured out that I am bisexual. And this is the question I'm going to end on, because I think it's a very, very important question, specifically for my case. Did I ever have to deal with internalized homophobia? And if so, how did I overcome it? Yes, I absolutely did. And again, it's only internalized. It wasn't external. I had most of my friends growing up were part of the community, LGBTQ community, and I never had an issue with this ever. And never, what I'm trying to say is I never acted out when it came to my internalized homophobia. It was only because when I was 15, because of what happened to me and the rumors going around that I was a lesbian and that they were meant to harm me and meant to make me feel bad about myself, I felt ashamed, and again I suppressed those thoughts, and I didn't want to think about it, and I didn't give it much thought. If anyone ever made the conclusion or assumed that I was bisexual or gay, I would almost be offended. I'd be like, no, what are you talking about? Like, this actually happened on multiple occasions in my later teenage years in high school, where I had a very close friend who was a lesbian. Actually, I think she might be bisexual with a female preference, but she, I guess looking back, she probably did have feelings for me, and a lot of her friends were making the assumption that I had feelings back or that I was bisexual, which, I mean, everyone knew because it was painfully obvious. But I remember like being like offended when people would just assume I was bisexual. I'd be like, no, what are you talking about? And I realized looking back that was internalized homophobia. I was not ready to acknowledge it at the end of the day, and obviously I've come a long way from this, and it was never acted out externally or onto other people. Like, I wouldn't have ever done that. I've never cared whom people love. That is their choice, to love whomever they want, and I personally wasn't ready to be outed, and it was a very sore subject going forward when people would just assume what my sexuality was. I'll always try to be mindful of that, and especially now that I've done a lot of reflection on that aspect of my life and how it was specifically harmful for me. Even though they were making the assumption that was technically correct, it was still harmful, but for me at the time, it was hurtful. But at the same time, you can argue that you can't really feel bad because it was a little bit of internalized homophobia on my part, towards myself, inflicting towards myself. But we've come a long way because, baby, I'm bisexual. So to answer the question, how did I overcome it? I gave it the thought, and I realized, well, I grew up, honestly. I'm 22 now, so I don't have to be stuck in a position where I'm around hundreds of people every single day who are raging with hormones and are super judgmental. Like, I sit up in my house and I play video games for a living. Like, I don't really care what people think. And that's how I overcame it, is a confidence thing at the end of the day. Like, I was confident enough in myself to be like, oh my God, I don't care what people think. I'm bisexual and I love myself. And I really hope that all of you can have the courage to be comfortable with your sexuality, even if you're straight. Like, never feel pressured to say one thing or the other to satisfy anyone else. And that's where I'm at in life, and I hope all of you feel the same way, even though I know it's not so black and white. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining in today's video. It's a really, really personal video, and actually this video was really hard for me to film, even though this is my second go around of filming this. If you see me in the white shirt versus the blue shirt, this is my second time. So I was a little more mentally prepared to answer some of these questions because I had already seen them. I hope that this gave you guys some clarity into the topic. I know that this is a hard topic for some people, and especially if you're a teenager, you might be going through some of the things that I went through, and you might be confused, and maybe this did give you some clarity, and I hope it did. and I hope it answered all of your questions. Happy Pride Month. It's my first Pride Month out of the closet. I'm a bisexual woman, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!